Wicked.
What's up, everybody? You are very welcome along. Apologies for the few minutes late. There was a little bit of a technical issue, but I'm delighted to say I am joined on the line by my good friend and fellow Liverpool fan, Cash Boyle. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you very much. How are you?
Trying to make the most of everything, Cash. As things stand, you know, it is difficult for everybody, but we're here to hopefully provide a bit of light relief and a bit of entertainment for people in these difficult times.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking even though the football's not on, there's no way that we there aren't things for us to analyse and talk about and laugh about, and I think people could do with that now. So I'm very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, look, it's lovely, and I'm gonna cut to the chase, Cash. People want to know, I want to know, we all want to know: are we gonna get this damn title?
Yes. I think because obviously we've waited for 30 years. There's almost this stereotype that's maybe partially true that we're almost cursed when it comes to the title in a way because of the few recent near misses that we've had, and obviously this situation is totally unprecedented. So people are worried about what would happen if the season were to be declared null and void, and I just don't see any situation in which they couldn't give us the title. One, because we would all fucking riot, and two, because the lead is so unassailable that it's not like it's a legitimate contest. It'd be different if Man City and us were even Stevens, let me say, but the reality is that we're so far ahead. You know, the season, if it ends, we'd still, if the season when it ends at its organic time, we would still be, you know, however many points ahead. So I think that is a reality that our rivals don't want to accept, but I think fairness should prevail and we should get it. It's just a case of when.
So here's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to try and give you my understanding of where we are in the world of football as things stand. Thank you, Liverpool Agenda, for the super chat, mate. Really kind of you. So, from my gathering, there's no appetite for the Premier League to be null and voided outside of Karen Brady, who, you know, obviously talks her own opinions. And
we should all take note of where that column was actually published, and then we can
yes, the rag, yes.
So, no credibility for me. She can get in the fucking bin.
I want to give a bit of credit here, actually, to Neil Atkinson for the Anfield wrap. Did you see him on Sky?
No, I didn't, actually.
He went on to talk about it, and the lady who was presenting brought up the fact, you know, well, Karen Brady thought this, and he said it, and I'll never forget it, and I'll love him forever for it. Karen Brady, something along the lines, and I am paraphrasing here, Karen Brady says a lot of stupid things.
Yeah, well, she's a massive fucking Tory, so...
So where we are, ladies and gentlemen, is that there seems to be no appetite for the league to be declared null and void. Now, this is why I brought Cash on, because Cash has a legal background, or at least much more of a legal background than I. And Cash, let's start off with, if the Premier League was declared null and void tomorrow, in my limited understanding, there will probably be an avalanche of lawsuits heading the way of the Premier League.
Yeah, there absolutely would be. I mean, if you... Again, like I do have a legal background to a point, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert in this by any stretch. But my understanding would tell me that if you were to relegate teams, promote teams, and less so crowning us the champions, but let's look at the other places, relegation and promotion from the Championship and the Champions League places. If you were to keep everything as it is now, the relegated teams would absolutely kick off, and rightly so. They would probably each individually file a lawsuit for what I would say it would be a breach of contract, because the whole idea is that the season is contracted to be 38 games long, and the outcome after those games is fair and within the bounds of, I suppose, the contract to play for that length of time in the league. But anything outside that, to act upon, I guess, the result after 29 or 30 games, 29 or 28 games, I think it is. Some people have played. Most people have played 29, I think, and then a couple of teams have played 28. Is that right?
Yes, there are teams
more or
with
less.
different.
There's slight difference, but if you were to, you know, act as though that was the actual like legal and legitimate conclusion of the season, then clubs would rightly absolutely sue, because, you know, the financial ramifications for relegation, promotion, and obviously the Champions League and even Europa League places are so significant that clubs don't even like to absorb the negative consequences when they've been achieved fairly, but for them to be achieved after the season's declared null and void would be totally unfair, both legally and sort of morally as well. So my view is that it would also open a massive can of worms. And I think the Premier League, we're so reluctant to suspend the games for a number of reasons, but I think one of them was because they really don't ever want to entertain a situation where all the games aren't played. So to continue from that and then all of a sudden decide, well, actually this season just a write-off, we'll start again next year, I think would totally undermine the integrity that they try and build the competition on. So for me, that would just be absolute anarchy if that happened.
It seems that the Premier League are rightly trying to buy some time, as are many leagues around Europe. So a lot will hinge on UEFA's meeting with their 55 member states, I believe, and other various representatives. There's a video conference going on Tuesday, and the big appetite, Cash, seems to be for them to postpone Euro 2020, perhaps move that to next summer. That would, I believe, have a knock-on for other events, but I believe they can figure that out, because the integrity of the leagues are vital, and I believe that they want European leagues to be able to finish this season, and as a bonus, if possible at all, try and figure out ways to finish the Europa League and Champions League. But we do have a little window of opportunity here, ladies and gentlemen. There is a little bit of a brightness at the end of the tunnel, and I want to cast your minds forward to the Qatar World Cup. The Qatar World Cup, as we know, is going to be a winter tournament. That does give people a little bit of wiggle room here. There is a potential to restart the league at any point from, say, May, June, September even, and play right up, because with that being moved to December, the leagues are going to have to adjust anyway because of the World Cup in the summer. So one suggestion that I heard, Cash, was perhaps play a calendar season from next season. So go from January through to, let's say, I don't know, September, and then have a break in October, November, and allow the clubs to prepare for the World Cup, or the national club teams to prepare for the World Cup in December. So there are people working very hard to try and find options here and ways to finish these leagues, and there does seem to be a huge appetite throughout all European leagues to finish their leagues, because, as you said, there are contractual obligations there, and there's a lot to think about here. We've got TV broadcasters to think about as well, of course, fans, the players aren't immune from this either, Cash. It's important to realise they're human beings. They have to be looked after as well.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I think it's, for once, I don't think that the regulatory bodies like UEFA, the FA in England, and in the other European leagues, for once I don't think there can be really any accusation that they're doing something for the wrong reasons. I genuinely think the impasse at the moment is just to buy themselves some time, because they, as a body, or bodies plural, are in a position where they've never been before, they never expected to be in. I think we all have to accept as a fan base that it will involve a little bit of, in inverted commas, winging it to sort of come to the right decisions. I think it's sort of the one occasion in which I would say don't blame, UEFA, don't have a go at the FA, because I do think they're trying to find a solution that works for everyone, which is impossible. So someone invariably will end up being pissed off and aggrieved, but it's just about almost what you prioritise. And I would say as well, I think there's nothing good comes from not playing the games ever. You think about all the things that you've mentioned, the players, the TV, not necessarily the TV companies, but certainly the clubs that benefit from TV money, the reality of being like a lower league club and depending upon your gate receipts hugely for revenue and survival. All those things in tandem really lead to a situation where not playing the games, or even playing them behind closed doors, is not a palatable or acceptable solution. So I think clubs are in a state of panic at the moment, and players, because they're wondering if these games will take place. I think once it becomes clear that they will take place, it's just a case of deciding when, and that may take some time because of the nature of the situation. I think, that will be a much more understandable position. I think that the worry at the moment is that because it's still uncertain as to whether they'll take place at all, the rumours sort of are banding around about, null and void seasons and clubs going out of business if they can't, play the games at some point in the future. So all those things I think will feel a little bit better, albeit not perfect, when it's confirmed that they are going to reschedule what we've lost. And I think that sort of is interesting in terms of players as well, because as you said, players are human beings. They're not in any way immune to this. In fact, they're probably more susceptible in a way because of the nature of how they travel a lot for work. They interact with a lot of people. They are, across the continent. There's actually like a almost a greater susceptibility if you're involved in football. And I think Wayne Rooney actually came out today and said, football. He felt like the response here treated footballers a little bit like guinea pigs, which was interesting because you sort of consider footballers to have everything, but actually, when it comes to like a global health crisis like this, you need to treat them on a par with everyone else, and they're not just there for entertainment. So I do think there's lots of things to consider, but to go full circle, once they reach the point where they say the games will take place, we just need to work out the logistics, I do believe things will calm down slightly.
I do want to address a couple of things that you've spoken about there, but I just want to address the chat as well. And I want to ask you guys, perhaps whether you're on Hot Mic, whether you're on YouTube, and ladies and gentlemen, we are live on Hot Mic as well. If you haven't downloaded the Hot Mic app, there is a link in the description. Use the code Anfield Agenda. All capital letters, all one word. Download that app. I'm going to go into the Hot Mic chat in a minute and see how everybody's feeling. And I want your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think should happen with the season? Now, I understand that there's going to be some trolling little twats in here from opposition clubs who want to come in and laugh and say Liverpool won't win the title. The bad news for you motherfuckers is I'm not going to listen to you and I'm not going to read your shit out. So unless you've got something constructive to say, fuck off. It's pretty much as simple as that. Anyway, Cash, to scroll back around, you were speaking about the revenue streams for clubs. I believe, and again, this is my limited understanding from picking up information and stuff, Premier League clubs' gate receipts account for about 8%, I believe, of the club's annual turnovers. When you drop down to below maybe the championship, but definitely below the championship, that figure goes to one third. So one third gate receipts and one third television revenue, etc., etc. So you can see a massive difference there. And as you said, the footfall means a lot to lower league clubs. So it's up to the Premier League clubs and UEFA and stuff to put their hand in their pockets here and help them out. Nobody wants to see clubs going out of business. We've seen clubs go out of business for mismanagement before, but as you rightly said earlier on, this is something nobody could see coming.
Yeah, exactly right. I think it's there's no doubt in my mind that clubs should be punished and have been if they mismanage their way into trouble. But I think this is a situation of nobody's making whatsoever, and I think it's important to remember that there are certain clubs, like even at the moment, for example, Macclesfield and Oldham are the two that come to my mind that are in huge trouble, and the threat of administration is large even before this happens. So when you consider that, it's impossible that deciding to not play the games, even if for the right reasons, which I think it would be for the right reasons, but if they decided to not do that, that would have a huge knock-on effect to the point where it could risk some clubs, becoming extinct. And of course, you and I are Liverpool fans, but it doesn't mean that you just disregard the issues of these smaller clubs, because the reality is football is everyone's game, and there's no way that a club should suffer because of something they didn't create in any way. And as I said, it should never be a choice between a club's survival and doing what's right by people's health, because that almost sort of what it feels like. In a sense, until these games were suspended, and even the National League still continuing, it's almost like because they're smaller clubs, it's like, well, we probably shouldn't put this game on, it's risky, but also we need the money. And it should never be that. It should be clubs should know and rest easy. Let's say, for example, with the idea that there's a pot of money in reserve, which there should be really for things like this, like a natural disaster. Let's say there should be a pot of money where you can basically dip into it to subsidise your club during this time. I don't know if such a thing exists, but it would be good to have one if we don't already. And hopefully when this is over, the experience can teach all of us, including the people involved in football on a more managerial level, I guess, teach all of us about how better to protect the sport if something like this were to happen again.
I think one thing I want to try and get across to people is these situations, these unfortunate circumstances that we find ourselves in will make us all better people in the long run. We will all learn from this. We will get our sense of community back. We'll understand what's important to us. We'll understand how the small things can be beautiful. And I'm trying to take positives from this. I'm going to jump into the chat now and see how everyone's feeling. Dan said we should still finish off the season, even if it involves putting the games back. Then cancel the Champions League is something that Kate said. A little fishing rod there. I get where you're coming from, Kate. We're not in it, therefore it's irrelevant. But yeah, I suppose we do need to look at the big picture. Kieran said they need to finish the remainder of the season whenever safe and possible. If they have to postpone the start of next season, so be it. can't just void the season, too much at stake for everyone. Then over on Hot Mic, Kevin reckons we should be given the title. What else is there? Kevin also said, I hope the FA and the Premier League come to the right decision over the end of the season. And I personally think we'll win the league, play it in the summer, said Scott over on Hot Mic. So, a lot of appetite for getting it played anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's right. And what's been refreshing is that I don't think no one that I've seen and no one in the chats that you've just mentioned are of the opinion that you just play it come hell or high water, fuck people's health. It's always with the caveat of we do need to play it, but only when it's safe to do so, because I think it's really important to emphasise that health does come first, and we as Liverpool fans just want what's rightfully going to be ours, i.e. the Premier League title, but we accept that it's not going to be confirmed when we wanted it to be, and there's no resentment of that amongst the Liverpool fans. We're all pretty content with it as long as we get what we're entitled to, and like all the guys say, just play it later on in the year and potentially postpone the beginning of next season, move the Euros to next summer, and there are always ways and means of doing these things and altering the logistics. It's not easy, but it's something that's possible and doable, and if you want to maintain everyone's appetite for the game, you need to play the season out properly when possible. I just think that's a non-negotiable.
There's something beautiful that Jurgen Klopp has been saying. I think it might have originated with Carlo Ancelotti, but I'm not 100% certain. He said football is the most important of the least important things, and that puts it into perspective.
Well, Jurgen Klopp's speech, or his speech, or his what is the word that I'm looking for? His statement. There we are. His statement on when the suspension was confirmed was actually like, everybody, obviously I live in London and we're all laughing in the UK that basically it's better than anything the UK government have said, and because it was full of all the things that make us love him. It was full of humanity, it was full of decency, it was full of, I suppose, focus on what he loves to do and the fact that he represents the team, but also an acknowledgement that it's not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much right now. And I think we all, either consciously or subconsciously, we all follow his mentality, and I think the speech that he gave and the statement that he made just really embodied why he is such a phenomenal manager and person. And it's sort of, we know we'll get our title. I think for me that is, without it being confirmed, and I haven't been tipped off about this in any way, but without having anything like that, there's just no way that it won't happen. And I guess we just have to be patient and allow things to take their course. But like you say, he put it into perspective that it is the most important of the least important things, and the reality is you have to be alive and well to enjoy football, and we all understand that. And it's although it's a scary and concerning experience, I think as a football family, if you like, people are quite unified in it, which is nice.
Shay has brought up something, and I'm going to change tact a little bit and look for something a bit more positive. Shay wants to know what's happening with Timo Werner. Haven't heard much recently. Probably a fairly obvious reason for that, Shay. One, we don't know when the hell the transfer window is going to open or close. And another issue that we have, Cash, and again, this is where I defer to your legal background. Players' contracts. Let's look at Lallana and Klein as an example. They run out, I believe, at the end of June. That's when players' contracts are. So it's always that part, because the transfer window seems to open straight after that. So Lallana, Klein, if the league is pushed back, and there are many other players in these situations as well, up and down the league pyramid and right up to the Premier League, who could potentially be out of contract if the league is pushed back to play in September, October, November, December. It's easy for us to say, hey, just sign a little extension, but life isn't that straightforward.
No, exactly, and I think that there's a couple of factors involved in that. I think firstly, something like that could be done on a player-by-player basis. I don't believe that there would be any specific clause in a player's contract to highlight what would happen in this specific scenario. There's no way that there would be a clause that says, in the event of a health epidemic preventing the season from ending on time, you must. I don't think there will be anything like that. But what I do think is that if a club wants to keep a player, that legally could be arranged quite easily. The difficulty lies in the fact that, and I'll use a non-Liverpool example. What if you have a player who's coming to the end of their contract, and I'll use the Ryan Fraser example for Bournemouth, who clearly is going to leave at the end of that contract, who, if the season is called to restart after the end of that contract, and he is sort of told or asked to sign an extension, that player who knows they're leaving, who potentially may already have a move in the offing, or there may well be things happening already in terms of negotiations with other clubs, how difficult will it be to A, convince a player to extend, and B, if they do so, how difficult will it be to get them to apply themselves properly, because they may well play with a fear that if they get injured, it could basically fuck up their next move. So it's difficult in that sense. But if a player, for example, the likes of Lallana, I think if it comes to that and the contract would have to be extended to September, October, the relations there seem very good, and Klopp has even said that he would want to keep him, but he can't offer him first team football. So from that standpoint, I think that could be done quite easily. But it's those players that already have an eye on going elsewhere, who are basically going to be like a sitting duck at their current club, not wanting to get injured, but also not contractually able to go to their new club yet. So I think that's where it becomes very, very difficult. But legally it could be done, I think.
I will circle back around to Timo Werner, Shay, I promise you. I haven't forgotten about that. But while we're talking about players whose contracts are running down here, there's another glaring issue that we haven't spoken about, and that is, of course, players who are on loan. And the contracts, the situations that they're in as well. If they're on loan for a season, does that contract, I imagine the contract would have a finished date in it because they believe the season was going to end at X, Y, or Z. But again, probably June, the end of June is probably the date on those contracts as well. So you've got players like, to use a Liverpool example, Ryan Brewster, who's currently on loan at Swansea. So he's kind of in limbo as well. Although he does have a parent club, he knows his contract situation from that point of view. But there are numerous players around Europe who are on loan and are going to wonder what the hell goes on here for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the loan system is different, I think, in the sense that loan deals tend to end when the season ends as opposed to the end of June. It's like the end of May or the middle of May. I read that the other day, so that's a slight difference. But what I would say is that at the moment, obviously, all the terms remain in place as they were. But it's a really difficult one, because I think with loans, it would come down to whether or not the player wants to stay on. I think if using the Ryan Brewster example, if Ryan Brewster's on loan at Swansea and they still have a sniff of getting in the playoffs, and his deal ends there in the middle of May, but their season won't end until the end of July because of the circumstances, well, he's not going to be in Liverpool's picture during that time, so he probably will just willingly stay on, and it's not a problem. But it's going to be the logistical difficulty of getting all those things sorted out with the parent club. Even things as simple as insurance. Like, so for example, when clubs have insurance relating to the players, that, to my knowledge, only runs from a certain point of the year to a certain point of the year when the players are traditionally at their club. But that's all going to change. So it's all the little small bureaucratic things that are going to be subject to massive upheaval that could be problematic. But actually, the playing side hopefully could be resolved quite easily, so long as both parties want the same thing.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard what Cash has had to say on that subject. Now, before we move on to Timo Werner and transfer news and all the bits in between, again, a shout out. If you are on YouTube and you're watching, ladies and gentlemen, please do download the Hot Mic app. There's a link in the description. I'm sure somebody will bang one into the chat as well. Hot Mic is available on the Google Play Store. It's available on the Apple App Store. You can use it on any mobile device. It is completely free to use. It is completely ad-free, and it benefits us as a channel massively. So if you want to do us that little favour, if you're enjoying the stream now, download the Hot Mic app, put in the code Anfield Agenda, all caps, all one word, and come over and join us on Hot Mic, where there's a lot of people in there already. Thank you guys for watching. And again, I want to give a shout out to our members as well. If you want to sign up, hit that join button. Super chats are up as well. Right, Cash, transfer window time. This gets very tricky now. Now, let's push aside when the window will be open and when it will close, because none of us know. We'd be just making it up.
Yeah. Let's
push aside the probability of Timo Werner. I haven't spoke to you in so long. What's your reading of this situation?
Oh, well, he wants to come, doesn't he? Like, it was quite funny watching his first leg interview after they beat Tottenham in London. And even though it was a game between RB Leipzig and Tottenham, he spoke about Liverpool pretty much for the entirety, which I thought was hilarious. Primarily because sometimes players try to be coy or they try to be like, ambiguous and vague. But he was just like, yeah, so well, yeah, I'd be open to going there. I don't know if I'd be quite at that level yet, but I would really find it an exciting offer. They're the best team in the world, and I was just like, I quite like that. It was very brazen. But what I would say is that his price tag, or his alleged price tag for how good a player he is quite reasonable. And I think there's a lot of kind of school of thought that Jurgen Klopp will try to upgrade the forward areas this summer in some way, which I wouldn't be entirely in disagreement with. And you've already got the hardest part of any kind of given deal. It's the fact that the player clearly wants the move, and the price is rather reasonable. So he wants it. It would make a lot of sense for us in terms of going to that next level and evolving the team in an appropriate way. And yeah, he's just a great player. I really, really like him. Really, really good.
Yeah, there's rumoured to be somewhere between a 30 million euro and a 60 million euro buyout clause. And the reason I keep bringing up the 30 million euro one is because that was what was mentioned when he signed the contract. I think it was last year with Leipzig. He would have been a free agent, but he decided, much like Origi did with us, to sign on for an extended period of time. I can't remember how long Werner's new contract was with Leipzig, but one thing to point out here is, one, we've a very good relationship with Leipzig. We've proven that before in the way that we've went about and conducted business with them. Yep. Klopp seems to love him, and now Ralph Rangnick-esque type player, doesn't he?
He really does. I mean, he, like you say, I think that working relationship between clubs is really important. And there's a lot to be said for the fact that, like, he did sign that deal, but he signed that deal with a very low, even if it's the 60 million buyout clause, that's still quite low for a player of his caliber. So it is all the hallmarks of a Klopp signing. One of the hallmarks being that it's good value for money, which is actually a really significant and important thing to Klopp, despite the fact that clearly the club is so profitable. So it's all the infrastructure for the move, if you like, is in place. It's just a case of making sure that if and when he does come in, that it's done without trying to upset the apple cart in respect of the other players that are already there. But there's no doubt that we could do with a player of that type at the club.
Mr. Morrissey, Brian Morrissey over on Twitter, where's this comment gone? He said Red Bull have to put low release clauses in their contract, because if players thought they get priced out of moves, then they wouldn't sign for them, which is a fair point.
Yeah, very much so.
I think Werner and his agent probably held a lot of the cards in those negotiations as well, because they knew Werner would have been able to walk. He would have been able to sign, I think, for free. I can't remember if it would be at the end of this season or
I think it would have been I think it was the end of last season, because Bayern Munich were really, really wanted to do that thing where they come in and just take a player for free. And then he obviously signed on. And I think what's interesting is that that he and the agent have all the cards, and that the club are effectively being played. But he seems like a thoroughly decent guy as well. He hasn't really caused any trouble. He's just trying to look after his career, but still doing his Leipzig while he's there, which I like, in terms of, if you're going to orchestrate a move, I feel like that's the right way to go about it.
I did see something he mentioned. I'm talking about Timo Werner. He mentioned Manchester United a while ago in almost a tier below club, and he mentioned it not in a derogatory way. He was speaking about, do I go to a club like Liverpool, who are up at the top and very difficult to break into the starting 11, or do I go to somebody like Manchester United maybe, who are building something and looking towards the future? And Manchester United fans immediately jumped on it and said, ha ha ha, you're not getting Werner. I do laugh at them sometimes.
Well, they're all awash with excitement because they've finally got a half decent midfielder at their club. Look, I mean, if their bitterness really just doesn't even affect me, because if he in any way expressed anything other than contempt for their club, then they would be all over him. But the reality is, they are where they are and we are where we are, and he, as a player with intelligence, can see that we are the better project, and albeit the more difficult project for him to break into. But as far as United are concerned, they've got a Gallo, so they're sorted.
I can almost see exactly what's happening with Gallo, by the way. He's playing his ass off to get a contract, and then he'll go full on Gallo once he gets his contract and become somewhat irrelevant.
Well, with the Igalo thing, the whole story of it being his boyhood club, which seems legit, not like, when Robbie Keane used to say he supported everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone. Like with Igalo, it does seem to be legit. And, objectively, I can't not think that's a nice story. But then also, like, you can't, he can't not know that he's being brought in as an emergency when they'd basically scoured all the ends of the earth for anyone, absolutely anyone, and they couldn't get anybody because of their mismanagement and their bad planning. So, good luck to him, but that whole deal just stank of the mediocrity that Man United are defined by.
Ladies and gents, if you have any questions, by the way, anything you want to ask myself, anything you want to ask Cash, anything you're unsure of, please do put them into the chat there, and I promise you I'll do my best to either address them myself or get Cash to give a view. Dave Smith said it's the strongest bench I can remember us having, and therein lies a little bit of the problem, Cash. I mean, I will openly come on and say that I believe Liverpool need to add an attacker, maybe a left back, and we need to look at the midfield situation, particularly from an attacking perspective. But where do these players come in? How hard is it to bring a player in when you know that you're going to be battling against Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's been a lot of sort of, not like a lot, but there's been a degree of speculation that one of the front three will leave. And Jamie Carragher seems to think it could be Salah. A couple of other people have said that. I mean, and my brother actually weirdly thinks that it could be Firmino. I don't know. What I would say is that front three are phenomenal, but there's that sort of synergy that they have and that chemistry they have. It can't last forever. So there will come a point where one of them does have to be replaced. And I don't know if it'll be this summer. My feeling is it might be next summer. But the reality is the club will have to eventually bring in an attacker to not just add to those three, but to replace one of them. So that will be interesting. But I would say that in terms of bringing...
Did you see what Hairy Hands had to say on the situation, Mr. Richard Keys? Did you see his little spell? He does love attention, doesn't he?
He is just a little bitch. Like, I wouldn't even... Like, I think I read what he said, and then I was just like, ugh. Like, ugh. I mean, he is where he should be, and he has no real relevance to anything that's actually happening at our football club. But... there will come a point where one of them does leave, and I don't think it'll be to go. Actually, interestingly, I don't think
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Who would you sell? Because I've given my opinion on this. Who would you sell if you had to sell one of the front three? If they were kicking up and one of them had to go?
Salah.
I'm with you. I have to say I'm with you.
Only because I think he's not a player that, like, for me, kicks up any kind of a stink. He's clearly an incredible professional, no issues there. But I have always felt, ever since he signed, actually, but increasingly as his profile grew, I've always felt a slight disconnect with what we're trying to do. Not enough that I think he is in any way disruptive to it, or he is in any way a divisive figure, or anything like that. But I've always felt like Bobby Firmino and Sadio Mane are so much more at the heart of what we are at the moment. And Salah is a phenomenal player, and please, anybody in the chat, don't fill me with hate, because I'm not slating Salah or his ability or his work ethic or his professionalism or anything like that. I'm just talking about what he is as part of the heart of the club. I don't quite get the impression that he's quite as connected to it and its tapestry as the other two. That's just my instinct. And also, I think this year there's been an element of, although he is fantastic, there's an increasing element of playing selfish that I think another player with lesser ability doesn't get away with. But I wouldn't want to sell any of them. But if I was to sell one of them, that would be who I choose.
Yeah, look, it is difficult to talk about these subjects because, as you said, people are going to maybe just tune in and go, what sell Salah? What's this that I'm hearing about? But look, we're always talking hypothetical worst case scenarios here and down the line. And I've made no secret of the fact that I think one of them will move on, not this transfer window, the following summer or whatever that summer-esque transfer window will be. And that's okay. Footballers are transient employees of the football clubs. We're here to support Liverpool Football Club, and whatever happens. But one thing we know is whoever moves on, we gonna get paid. We are gonna get paid.
But I think you've also, like, with that, and I totally agree, by the way, but I think with that you've got to strike while the iron's hot. You see a lot of situations where a player leaves a club a year after they should have done, and you don't get quite their value. Now, I don't actually think that'll happen with either of our three, but I just think the timing of those types of moves has to be just right. So, I mean, using another non-Liverpool example, Arsenal should have sold Alexis Sanchez before he left and did that swap deal. They should have sold him when he was more at his peak and he had more value. And I think if this summer, I don't think it will be this summer, I think it'll be next summer, because I think the players will want to try and defend the Premier League title. But I do think after that you've got, 3 players that are close to 30 by that point, and they may well. I don't think he'll let more than one of them leave. I think it'll be one, and I just feel like the most individual is Salah. I just really think that. I mean, I don't know necessarily whether that's true or not. It's just an impression, and it's one of those things that you can be damn sure that whatever does happen, A, as you mentioned, will get paid, and B, the team will be built smartly in the absence of that player like they did with Coutinho. So I have complete trust.
I'm going to jump in and read some comments from the chat now, but before I do, I want to just reiterate, one point to anybody that's watching this that might be a little bit worried. One thing I will say is Liverpool will not be bullied into selling anybody. Those days
absolutely.
are over now. Those days are gone. Liverpool are a destination club. Liverpool are not a stepping stone club. Liverpool are at the very peak and pinnacle of world football right now. Players will, as I like to say this phrase, crawl over broken glass to come and play for us. Right, so... Yep. What have we got? Ronnie said, Craig, I love our front three, but I think we need to shake it up a little bit. Werner and Sancho for him. Podrick spoke about something that I'm going to come back to in a sec. He said it's always possible to play with a 4-3-2-1 formation. I'd flip that to a 4-2-3-1 anyway, but unfortunately a midfielder misses out. We'd have to play 2 defensive midfielders. Not necessarily, Podrick, and I'll come back to that in a second. Zinedine Zidane, Ian Greenstreet has said Zinedine Zidane has told Real Madrid that they want to buy, or that he wants him to buy Sadio Mane for £140 million. I don't think that buys Sadio Mane personally. I don't think we'd want to listen to offers, but if we did, I think it would be up from that. And then there's Jadon Sancho, Jadon Sancho, and I suppose I will pitch Jadon Sancho to you, and I will also get your thoughts on what Podrick is talking about with maybe a little tweak in formation, whether that be a 4-3-2-1 or a 4-2-3-1, and your thoughts on Sancho.
I think he's a phenomenal player, so good. And actually, interestingly, I actually think he's got a really good temperament. I know he's had a bit of sort of, I suppose, anger or sort of slight discord at Borussia Dortmund, but actually, largely speaking, I think his temperament's been really, really good, and he's young and he is breaking records left, right, and centre in Germany. And I'm going to say it now. A lot of people compare him with Raheem Sterling, and I'll say it right now, not just because I don't like Raheem Sterling particularly because of the way that he left the club. I actually think he's already got the potential to be way better than Raheem Sterling could ever be, because I actually think, and it's highlighted by the fact that Raheem Sterling currently isn't scoring goals, he only really can offer his running ability and his ability to get behind, whereas I think Jadon Sancho is a much more dynamic and well-rounded player probably already. Well, he's much more well-rounded than Raheem Sterling was at the same age. So, to my mind, a player like that will always do so well at Liverpool, but he would have to marry his ability with the correct level of discipline to play in a Jurgen Klopp team, and I think he would. But I wouldn't legislate this, or I wouldn't endorse the sale of particularly Sadio Mane, because I think he's absolutely vital. I wouldn't want the sale of someone like Mane to facilitate his purchase, if that makes sense.
It does, and I've been thinking, while you've been talking, I've been listening and thinking about Podrick's comment here about the 4-2-3-1. The thing about that system that I suppose a lot of people take for granted is they believe that the 2 in midfield is going to be 2 holding midfielders. Not necessarily always the case. Couple of things to remember here. Our fullbacks basically play as auxiliary wingers, and when they do, the centre-back split, Jordan Henderson or Fabinho, whoever it is, usually drops in, plays between them. But what we've seen Jurgen Klopp do before, Cash, is he wants 2 workhorses in that 2. One holds, one goes. That can rotate. And we've seen it before previously when we played that system. So I wouldn't necessarily think of a 4-2-3-1 as having 2 holding mids. Always going to have one for sure, but he does give licence when we're in transition for one of them to move forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't really necessarily think that 2 holding midfielders would be stylistically the way you'd want to play, but also I just think there's, by and large, we're not really going to be involved in games where we're going to need to do that. Particularly not at home. I would say, such as our strength at the moment, that would almost be a sort of a bit of a a bit of a waste. Not to mention the fact that the really defensive, if you were to call it that, at the club is Fabinho, who, quite frankly, unfortunately, is stinking the place out at the moment. So it's I sort of see the point, but I don't think it's something that necessarily would happen. But again, he could surprise us.
Ryan said, what about Genie moving on, Craig? The thing that I understand, mate, again, I've no inside information, just like Cash, I'm just here giving my opinion. I think the Genie Wijnaldum situation is nothing to do with wages. I don't think it's anything to do with the club's vision moving forward. I think, Cash, it's purely to do with the length of contract maybe being offered towards Genie. And I want to be very clear about this. I fucking love Genie Wijnaldum. The man protects the ball better than almost anybody else on the pitch. He runs his heart out when you're a consistent 7.5 out of 10 from Genie, Cash, week in and week out.
He's got like the most majestic thighs I think I've ever seen, just in terms of the muscle definition. Like he's just, and a big part of that comes from the way that he protects the ball and shields the ball, as you said. I think he's one of those players that, particularly in his earlier Liverpool career, he did frustrate, and you could see why. But I think you cannot argue and dispute how vital he is to what we're trying to do in terms of the big games, particularly the big games. I mean, 2 incredible headers and 2 seismic Anfield Champions League games for one, and just several other really important aspects of him being at the club. Like you said, I don't think it's got anything to do with wages. It's purely to do with length of contract, and I would hope that it doesn't reach a point where they can't agree on a compromise that would suit everyone, but it may well do. I think it would be unfortunate, and I wouldn't, if he were to leave for that reason and that reason alone, I wouldn't say I'd disagree with the club, because I think you can't really argue with the direction that we've gone in, but I do think that would be a mistake. Yeah.
Sorry to cut across you.
No,
There seems to be some. I'm just reading through the chat here. There seems to be some mixed views as well on Sancho. A couple of people believing that he's got a little bit of an attitude issue. We spoke about these before. He did have some troubles. There's no denying that. Came back late from international duty. Was relegated down to train with the younger players at Dortmund. But he seems to have picked up since the German winter break. But one thing that seems to be consistent in the chat, Cash, is few people believe he's off to United, and a couple of people think that because of the whole British thing, he's been overhyped, and the price that apparently Dortmund are looking for is similar to the Ousmane Dembele money.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with the point that he probably is slightly inflated because he's British. Like, I think that's a totally fair point. But what I would say is that when you look at the Ousmane Dembele money, the difference is Ousmane Dembele has in no way vindicated that price tag, because he's been pretty much injured the entire time he's been at Barcelona, and the rumours of his attitude don't just relate to occasional late keeping and so on. It actually relates to the way he trains, the way that he takes care of his body, the things that are vital to performing on the pitch, and probably in a sense vital to preventing injury. So there's no allegation of that with Jadon Sancho. There's perhaps, and what other 19-year-old could you legitimately say would be earning that amount of money per week, would be getting that much acclaim, that wouldn't lose their head a little bit? I think the reality is, I don't think it's a bad thing that he lost his head a bit, but I think it's more a sign of his character that he kind of found himself again, and quite quickly. Because what was just sort of a minor, I think quite a minor attitude shift, could have blown up and become a more long-term reputation, and I don't think he's allowed that to happen. So I wouldn't let that be a reason why we wouldn't go for him. I do think the money would be ridiculous, and that is a totally fair argument to the person that mentioned that in the chat. But in terms of him and Dembele, I don't think the comparison quite stacks up. But what I would say is, if he is going to United, well then evidently we don't know what I believe his mindset to be maybe doesn't tally up with what it is, because that would be a complete sacrifice of his ambition, because they're not getting into the Champions League this year. I don't care when the season finishes, and also it's just not a better club than a lot of the other ones that would be on offer for him. So it's be interesting to see, but I would be surprised if he made that move.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you all fair warning and heads up, by the way. Just like we did when we streamed the other day, we're going to do 1 hour on both platforms, on YouTube and on Hot Mic, and then we're going to move over to Hot Mic only for a bonus 30 minutes or so at 10 o'clock when this stream comes to an end on YouTube. So, if you haven't yet downloaded that Hot Mic app, there is a link in the description. I'm sure one of our mods will post it into the chat as well right now. And then you can go download that app, put in Anfield Agenda as your sign up code, and we will see you guys over there then for a bonus half hour. We'll be talking about things like Kai Havertz, other transfer news and stuff like that. Again, we're just trying to build up our following over on Hot Mic as well, and to let you guys see why we're pushing this platform so hard, how easy it is to use. There's live chat over there as well. You get the same video and audio that you're getting on here on YouTube. If you're on Hot Mic right now, please do share that stream as well. Let people know that we're live. Let people know that we are out and about. If you can hit that like or that share button, you can pick. You can share it to whatever social media platform you like. Now, Cash, to get back to football related matters, the relegation end of the table. This is to me is when Karen Brady came out with her nonsense about making the season otherwise. She was fooling nobody. I mean, if West Ham were mid-table,
Egypt anyway.
I love that. More use of the Irish word Egypt, please. It's beautiful. It's a great way of belittling somebody without actually getting pulled up on it. Do you know what I mean? It's almost
it's definitely not libelous. They can't say that it's any kind of libel-related situation. They don't even know what it means. But yeah, she's an idiot.
Oh, I also sometimes, Cash, like to throw in Omadon.
I've never heard of that. Is that an Irish word?
It's an Irish word for idiot or moron.
Never heard of that, you know. That must
there
be
you go.
You learn something new every day, Craig.
Isn't it mad that in our wee little country that there's like 4 different dialects of the same language? It's mental, isn't it?
Best country in the world. No, it is crazy. In a country of 4 million people.
There you go. 4 million people. Right, what else we got? What have we got? Craig, if Salah wins the league...
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I missed the comment there. Oh, there is a link in the chat there to Hot Mic if anybody wants to do it. Brilliant. We could buy Mbappe, etc., and flop certain players, struggle altogether, or take them to get used to the Premier League. That actually reminds me. Thank you for bringing this back to my memory. I want to have a little chat around Naby Keita. Keita, ladies and gentlemen, please do give me your views on Naby in the chat as well, because I'm interested to see what the general consensus is on Naby. I've made no secret of it. I'm a fan, but I do think Cash, he may need to work on his upper body strength, and he may need to pack on a little bit more muscle because, again, look, I have a very limited understanding of the physiology, or should say, whatever phrase I'm looking for, of a human body. But it does seem a little bit lightweight to me, and he's picking up a lot of injuries that we didn't see him having at Leipzig and we didn't see him having at Salzburg before that.
Yeah, I think it's the thing with Naby Keita is that it's not long-term injuries. You know, like we've talked in previous streams about Joe Gomez and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain particularly have had a lot of knee and ankle injuries. With Keita, it's all sort of smaller stuff that and sort of, you know, spread out over a number of places in his body as well. So that does indicate to me that perhaps there is a physiological issue. And
have you put the mic in your pocket or something?
No, I didn't know.
That just sounds like you're rubbing hands over it or something's rubbing off it or something.
Oh, sorry. Does it sound any okay now, or?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, sorry. No, I just think with him, it's the it may well be that, but I mean, I am of the opinion that if that is the problem, it should have been rectified by now. That is my view, because what is it now? This will be the end of his second full season, no?
Yes, I believe so. Well, did he come in? Yes, because we loaned him back for the rest of the season.
So, you know, and I don't know what the stats say, we could probably find out, but the reality is he doesn't play, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row. That very rarely happens. Sometimes, in fairness, because of rotation, but sometimes also because he breaks down. That's what I think.
I think I'm going to have to let you go, Cash. I don't know what the issue is, but there's really bad audio coming through. It's obviously nothing that any of us are doing. It could just be Skype or the microphone playing up.
All right, okay.
If that's okay, buddy, I will get you on again really soon.
All right. Just obviously give my apologies to the guys. It must be just a technological thing.
It's technology and it's jittery as it is. But look, I do apologise, Cash. I wanted to keep this conversation going, and we will catch up really soon if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Cash.
Bye-bye.
Right, ladies and gents, it's just you and I. I'm going to take off my headphones now. Oh, that's a strange feeling. Now, keep your comments coming, ladies and gentlemen. It is just you and I right now, and I do apologise for that. And I apologise to Cash as well, because I was really enjoying my chat with Cash. And I know she's working from home, obviously, over the next while, so I'm sure we'll be able to get Cash to free up a few minutes to come back on for a chat again. It was lovely to catch up with Cash. She's one of my very good dear friends, and somebody who, as we said, has a bit of a legal background in in her life, as well as being a stand-up comedian, as well as now working as a journalist. She is somebody who's uber talented, and I said, one of my favourite people in the world. So again, I do apologise of the audio issues. But we are where we are. Right, look, ladies and gents, where do we want to go with this? And again, just a reminder that we're going in 5 minutes over to Hot Mic only for the last half hour of the stream. So please do download the app and get over there if you haven't done so already. Craig, am I an Craig, are you an influencer? Said Casper. It's one of those words, mate, that makes me cringe. I don't mind calling other people influencers, and I don't mind people calling themselves influencers. I'm just Craig. I'm just a fella, mate. I'm just a lad from Ireland who, along with Connor, came on and started a YouTube channel and talks about the Reds. Definitely don't consider myself very influential, put it that way. So yeah, we are where we are. What else? A lot of people thanking Cash as well, which is lovely to see. I know there were a lot of people asking me when Cash was coming back on. And you can see now why we like to have her on, because she's so insightful. She's very knowledgeable on a lot of matters. And as I said, one of my very good friends. She drives on Uber. That's all she's short of doing, Brian, mate. She does everything else. Why not jump in and drive an Uber? Boya has jumped into the chat as well. How are we, sir? Great to have you in. Ladies and gents, we're going to be hopefully... pre-nominations right now are going along for awards, and we're going to be giving you some information over the next few days as well. We can hope that you can go over and vote for us to win an award, and more information on that coming soon. Again, Casper said lovely chat with Cash. Craig, do you have a big willy? No. Soz, I could lie to you, mate, but no. I wish. If I did, I'd probably be sitting here naked, mate, if we're being honest, you know what I mean? Just to lighten it up a little bit. What do I think Liverpool will aim for next year? Said Ethan Clarity. Domination, mate, without trying to sound arrogant and stuff. Whatever happens this season, and we are waiting to see what happens. I mean, the likelihood of things as it stands is that the season will probably get postponed for a little while. And then, as I said earlier on, there is a little bit of scope because of Qatar World Cup taking place in December. They could restructure the leagues for a couple of seasons, perhaps finish out this one a little bit later, and then start maybe a calendar season starting in January and moving on. We don't know what's going on right now. We'll have more information coming on Tuesday when UEFA have that emergency meeting, and then the Premier League clubs are meeting on Thursday as well. So I'm sure we're going to get more information from those guys as well. Will this stream go on YouTube later on? Yes, Casper, absolutely, buddy. It will upload to YouTube as per normal. Giant bollocks, though. That, yes. Big Irish nuts. Never forget that, mate. Yes, there we go. Remember, Jadon Sancho is not worth more than 55 million. Liverpool will be mad to pay that, said Willow. Whoever buys Sancho is going to pay more than that. I mean, they're not going to let him go for less than 100 mil, I'd reckon, even maybe 120, 130 million euro. Something along those lines. Has Van Dijk been... I don't get the question. Has Van Dijk been this season or last season, Ibrahim? Sorry, mate. I don't get what the question is. I'm a little bit behind on that one. It is boring without footy, Casper. I'm with you, mate. But we are here to keep each other company, you know? Make sure that we're all tickety-boo. Make sure that we all have somebody to chat to, because apart from Liverpool, you know, we take pride in the community aspect of what it is that we do here in Anfield Agenda. We take pride in being able to talk to people from all around the world, and there are people right now who might feel a little bit isolated, might feel a little bit lonely, and we want those people to know that we're going to continue streaming, even if we've got not much Liverpool stuff to talk about, because we want to make sure everybody can stay in touch. We want to make sure that all you guys are okay. As we've always said, the love and support that you've shown us means the world to us. So again, thank you for all of that, and just to let you guys know, we will be here. We will be streaming, we will be carrying on, and we'll find something to talk about. You guys know anything about me at this point, it's that I can talk. So we'll find something to talk about, don't you worry about that. Again, we're going over to Hot Mic now in 60 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be ending our YouTube stream and going over to Hot Mic only. Again, if you haven't downloaded the Hot Mic app, there is a link in the description, and there will also be one going into the chat, I'm sure, very soon. Put in the code Anfield Agenda, all capital letters, all one word when you download that app. It's completely free to download, it's completely free to use, it's completely ad-free. And again, for me, it is the future of fan broadcasting. So get over there, and I just want you guys to see what it's like, see why I like it so much. Boya, how are you? Sancho ceiling a potential move is so high, I think right now better value in the market. Probably, and I agree with you, Anthony. I think there is better value in the market, and one of those potential better options would be Kai Havertz, who is somebody that we're going to be talking about over on Hot Mic. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bid you adieu. I'm going to bid you goodbye. If adieu is the right word, I don't know. I'm going to bid you goodbye on YouTube, and I hope to see you all over on Hot Mic for a bonus 30 minutes worth of content over there. If not, then we will be next streaming on YouTube on Tuesday after UEFA have their meeting, so we'll have an update and more news as well onto that one. So to everybody on YouTube, thank you so much. Love you guys, and I will chat to you soon. Take care and look out for each other, and we are now going to go over to Hot Mic. Adios. What's up, Hot Micers? How are we? Great to see you guys on. How am I feeling? Asked Luca. I'm tickety-boo, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'm one of these people, though, if I hear what symptoms are, I'm convincing myself I'm feeling them in an hour's time. I'm definitely